Archbishop Lazar and I are in Istanbul at a major international conference on the work of the Risale-i Nur, the great work of Said Nursi, a remarkable 20th century Muslim theologian. And it has been so noticeable to us to see how many young people have been drawn by Said Nursi and the Risale-i Nur into what seems to me to be a kind of recovery of their faith in a rich and remarkably wholesome way. So it's lovely to have you here, Sally, and to have you think out loud for us a little bit, first of all, about how this has come about for you. How do you come to this? Because everybody has their own particular path. I met you, of course, in Edmonton, where you're doing graduate work, and you were my neighbor, briefly.
I'm honored to be your neighbor.
So how did you come to the Risale?
Well, I grew up in Eastern Turkey, and then for my undergrad I came to Istanbul. And I think in my 20s I had a big crisis in my life, like identity crisis. And the problem was, the university was a secular university. I had a secular education, and what should be my focus at the university? I had like questions in my mind. Should it be like an ethnic focus, or should it be that's just I should enjoy my life, have fun with people? But it was very obvious that I had really a big crisis in my life. And then I met some of the members of the community, Nur community.
You met them at university?
Yes, at university. You know, in the class you'll encounter
right.
them. You cannot avoid them. They're everywhere.
Because this movement has really attracted an awful lot of young people in Turkey.
Yeah, they have lots of at the university there are, I will say like almost 1 out of 3 students, they are part of this community.
Wow,
yeah.
1 out of 3.
Yes.
I've heard, for example, that the Darsanis, the reading circles associated with the Risale-i Nur, that there are 10,000 of them that meet here in Istanbul every week.
Usually, when you think of the structure of Dersane, usually there are 5 or 6 university students, and they stay there, they use Dersane as a dorm.
A dorm.
And so they read the Risale-i Nur, and also they are going to the university.
A place of study.
Education. Yeah, it's kind of places place of study.
So you met some students.
I met some students. So then they invited me to so usually they have gatherings. They have dinner, or they invite some scholars or professors from the university. And then this one was my first encountering of Risale-i Nur. And first I met Professor Dr. Kaya in one of these gatherings. So I think it was like a turning point in my life. And then, well, I will say like I was about to be an atheist, because I learned my parents, they are dogma religious people. So I didn't get like any religious education. What I had, what I learned from them. So like after.
But it wasn't. By that, do you mean it was not? You did not really understand how the dogma and the teaching, the ideas, how those illuminate your experience in your life.
Yeah, after coming to the university, I think it was really challenging for me to reconcile religion and my education and my life. It was very difficult. What is religion? What's it all about? After reading Risale-i Nur, I think now something was clear for me, because Nursi, for example, when it comes to the concept of God or the concept of religion, he doesn't get some references from, let's say, Quran, or let's say the Hadith, the saying of the Prophet. He he tried to explain why it is reasonable to believe in God, what is the arguments. He tries to prove it. So I mean, it was really helpful for me to get rid of my identity crisis at the university.
Did you then begin to live in a Darsani?
No, I never lived in a Darsana, but I was very in touch with.
You began to attend.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's say, at least twice a week, I would go to Darsana, like in evenings, have dinner with students.
So you have dinner there. You say the evening prayer together.
Yeah,
that's quite common.
Evening prayers
and then describe how you engage the Risale. Yeah. How does that work in the Risale?
I mean, then when you know the Risale, then you try to explore it more, like really what's in the Risale. I think what another like striking thing in the Risale was Nursi's pluralist view of Islam. I mean, so he, like, his previous works are mainly on minorities of, like, during the Ottoman time, let's say the last years of Ottoman time. For example, his writings on Armenians, I think it was really, I mean, I grew up in Eastern Turkey. I consider myself a Kurdish.
Kurdish Turk.
Yeah, Kurdish Turk.
A Turkish Kurd.
Turkish Kurd or Kurdish Turk. And, like, I mean, he's talking about Armenians in 1911s, and what is he saying at that time? I think it's very unique, and and I will say he is very brave to say something like this.
What did he say?
What did he say? That, for example, they asked, so there is kind of a new constitution. It is a new constitution during the last years of Ottoman. And so some people from the region, they will ask him, you know, it is okay for us then, like, by this constitution reforms, well, we have a bad situation because it provides Armenians to be government to us. So how is it possible?
With status, they could have status.
Yeah. So how is it possible for us, you know, that as a Muslims to have an Armenian governor?
Christian Armenians.
Christian Armenians.
Yeah.
And I mean, what he says that, well, I mean, the important is that principles, you know. I mean, if they are good in their task, if they do what they should do as a governor, so what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think in that time to say something like this is a how do you say?
He was pushing the boundary.
Pushing the boundary, yeah. Yeah, this is his pluralist view.
So in the Risale, there is and certainly Said Nursi in many places, he calls for Muslims to engage Christians, engage Jews, engage others for the sake of a very common matter, as I read it, which is the dignity of the human person in the face of the modern world. That there are big challenges around that in the modern world, and to engage them for that dignity. And that clearly has rung a chord with you, with your colleagues in our world. Am I right
I think
about
this is
that?
very significant. I mean, when you encounter, let's say, the member of your community or the people who read Risale Nur, I mean, you don't need to, like, encourage them to let's have a dialogue. They are already ready for the dialogue because Nursi encouraged them to cooperate with people of faith.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.